Harvard Divinity School.
100 Years Rudolf Steiner, December 15th and 16th, 2025.
I am now delighted to introduce Carlo Willmann, Professor Emeritus of Religious Education and Ethics at Alanus University, where he directed the master's program in Waldorf Pedagogy. Professor Willmann also participates in the International Teacher Education Project at the Goetheanum, and he will be speaking on religious education in Rudolf Steiner's educational thinking. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dan, for this introduction, and thank you for having me. It's an honor to speak. My presentation will give some insights in Rudolf Steiner's thinking on religious education. I will start with his concept of religion and religious education. Then I will look at its intentions and next to its didactical approach. And finally, I will share some thoughts about its significance today. And all that in 20 minutes. An important premise that characterizes Steiner's thinking about education is his assumption that religiosity is an inherent characteristic of human beings, that humans have, I quote, an original natural religious disposition. Steiner locates this disposition in the human astral body as it is like a ontological category. These anthropological findings are the starting point for Steiner's reflections on religious education. For him, there is no question that this disposition is a potential that needs to be developed. Education has the task of recognizing this potential and promoting it in the best conceivable way. In 1923, 4 years after the founding of the first Waldorf school, he says, quote, to educate human beings holistically and to deepen the religiosity of these holistically educated human beings, that is something we have sought to comprehend as one of the most meaningful tasks of the Waldorf school inputs. Two terms are of interest, holistically and to deepen. Holistically educated in our context means educated in science, in art, and in religion, in the sense that all three should become alive, as Steiner required at the opening of the first Waldorf school. To deepen is a word Steiner uses very often with respect to religion. Religion deepens your understanding of the world. It deepens your relationship to others. It deepens yourself. For Steiner, deepening is a characteristic feature of religion. What are the consequences? For education, Steiner drew three main conclusions. The first one, religion is not just a matter for religious communities. It's a human task for all education. The second one, there is a need for a general, universal religious education in which fundamental values and attitudes should be experienced and learned by all students, regardless of their religious affiliation and across all denominational boundaries. Third, religion should shape and enrich all teaching. All education is religiously formable. Every lesson can have a religious moment. For that, Steiner preferred a specific concept of religion. Addressing teachers in 1919, Steiner describes religion as feeling and will. The content of religion is secondary. Content is more cognitive. It does not determine the depth of religious experience. Religion lives in the deeper layers of the human being, in the realm of emotions and willpower. The task for education is to reach these deeper layers and to achieve religious resonance. which feelings and impulses, real impulses, should be addressed and cultivated. Steiner clearly places emphasis on trust, wonder, awe, humility, obedience, universal gratitude, loving devotion, charity, love to God and to the next, willingness to take on responsibility, duty. And furthermore, young people, after their school time, should have the strong feeling of being created in the image and likeness of God. And finally, the entire school life should be characterized by an atmosphere of tolerance and humanity. Many questions are rising. Many questions. What is right? What is missing? What should be given away today? And so on. I would like to add that these values also play a significant role in the overall educational philosophy of Waldorf as maxims of education: gratitude, love, duty. What are the didactical consequences? By considering content aspects to be of secondary importance, Steiner gives priority to didactic and methodological aspects. The result is an education with an aesthetic focus. The shift of religious cognitive education, as it was usually at that time, the shift toward aesthetics is an essential feature of education at Waldorf schools generally, and especially for religious education. So, the didactic approach is characterized by Steiner's emphasis on the use of imagery in all lessons. Such teaching serves the experience of a deeper reality, where learning happens not only through thinking, but also through feeling and will. It has to do with an intuitive, symbolic, and metaphorical convenience of content, using speech, gesture, music, activity, poems, plays, and others. The teacher does not define, but rather characterizes so that the things discussed remain more open. The intention of this is to sensitize students in an aesthetical way to moral experiences, questions of deeper meaning and human values. But content is nonetheless necessary. You need content to cultivate these feelings, to engage the will, as Steiner said. Therefore, in Waldorf schools, we find a number of religious motifs present in the classroom. There are rhymes, prayers, religious songs, the morning verses, Christian holidays are celebrated, Christmas plays are performed, and classrooms are decorated with masterpieces of Christian art history. The stories told, the narrative curriculum plays a key role. Then often based on religious themes, stories of saints, stories of the Israeli people, then also Germanic Greek, Egyptian, Germanic Greek, and Roman myths and legends from Zarathustra religion, Buddhism, and Hinduism and Islam are recounted. This all should give the students a broad and diverse, vivid picture of religious narratives and traditions from various times and places. All that has a propedeutic character. The class teacher does not really teach religion. He only stimulates feelings and will impulses. Steiner said that this form is or can serve as a basis and preparation, a fundament for further denominational religious education, for a further to find a religious identity, for example, for adults. So general religious education has an indicative character, whereas religious education by a religious community is instructive, introducing the student to a particular religion and its practices. The impact, next to the religious elements, they seems to be also to support confidence building. self-confidence building. It promotes resilience, helps to strengthen the ego, and enables deeper access to the world, and finally helps to build up the sense of human community. This was important for Steiner. We heard yesterday about the social threefold movement, and he said to them, we will not solve the social problems without resorting to religious impulses. That brings me to the next point. 100 years after Steiner's death, it is easy to see that at least in Europe, there are real changes in the significance of religion within society as a whole and for individuals. There is a remarkable loss of religious traditions, knowledge, communication, practice. At the same time, we see a growing number of spiritual and religious offerings from very many different backgrounds. Between this current erosion of traditional religion and the growing plurality, it is important to find a form of education that cultivates an open, tolerant, and diverse approach to religion, and a more individualistic one. We must consider that the situation has reversed. In the past, people joined a religion and integrated their lives into the structure of that religion. Today, individuals attempt and succeed in integrating religion or parts of different religions even into their own lives stories, into their own biography. This is the other way around. I think in relation to that, for Waldorf education, future lies in this work, developing a contemporary form of a universal religious education in such a way that a variety of spiritual directions can be found in it and feel understood. Maybe that Steiner, had in his mind this when he thought about creating a general or a universal religious education in Waldorf schools. This might be a good question to end, but I won't. We speak about plurality, variety, diversity in religion. The most interesting points are starting here, because then we have to take a look at Waldorf schools worldwide, especially in a non-Christian context. Waldorf education is rooted in Christian impulses, but is open for all religions because it is attempting religiosity in all people. So we find all religions represented in Waldorf schools worldwide, and that gives a colorful picture. Didactic and methods are different. In Japan, calligraphy allows to enter in the subtle philosophy of Buddhism or Shintoism. In Waldorf schools with an indigenous background, like in Peru, cosmic dances give expression of spiritual experiences. And the significance of values is a different one. When I made interviews with teachers of the Waldorf Schule Sekam in Egypt, they highly valued purity, a term as a value, a term you will not find anymore in Christian context, but in Islam, there is no prayer without purification. Sekam, I know, is a special case. They have an own mosque on the campus. They have an own imam for all the students and teachers. But when I was once there on Easter, the whole Islamic community celebrated Easter together with very few students of Coptic faith. It was very moving. Teachers in Israel have totally revised and expanded the narrative curriculum with narratives of the Jewish Bible and authentic It's an authentic curriculum for Waldorf schools in the Jewish context. If Waldorf schools from each other learn from each other, they will be able to enhance, maybe, what Steiner intended with his idea of religious education. In the sense of Steiner, that means, I think, to learn to be a human being with the help of the overall divinity. Thank you very much for your attention.
Sponsored by the Program for the Evolution of Spirituality.
Copyright 2023, Preston Fellows of Harvard College.